and welcome to our webinar this afternoon on the ongoing evolution of childcare management software. We're excited to have you on board. Good afternoon, Kathy, Maggie. It looks like we've got Miss Thomas or Mr. Thomas. Hello, Rhonda, Sharon. I believe I just saw a hello from Texas. My sister lives in Texas, beautiful area. Brenda, welcome. Chicago, the Windy City, beautiful place to be. Hello, Sharon and Cindy, Tina, welcome. Please, everyone, feel free to share where you're from. We're excited to have you on board today. I am Nicole Farkas, and I will be your MC for today. So the, let's see, we got, oh, South Dakota, hello. You guys gotten any snow out there yet? Yep. Up here in Western New York, we've gotten a little bit here and there, but Buffalo has had snow. Yes, yes, Scott. You guys win the big ticket there, that's for sure. What was it, 80 inches by the Bills Stadium? So kind of crazy. But today we're excited. Tony D'Agostino, the founder and CEO of Inspire Care 360, will be our host for today. And we're excited to have our featuring guests of Scott Wayman, founder and CEO of Kangarootime. And also we're excited to have on Dani Christine, who is a childcare owner, and she's also a consultant and creator. So we definitely do encourage questions and suggestions and comments. If you have questions for any of our guests or for the host, please feel free to put those in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen, and we will make sure that we do our best to get to all of them. If for any reason we do not get to your question today, we can always follow up with that with an email to you. This will be available on our Facebook page, LinkedIn, so that you can actually watch it later if there's something you missed, or if there's other individuals within your establishment that you would like to have watched this as well. This is also for CEU credits, so we will have a link for you so that you can send us your information and we can make sure that you get your certificate of completion. So we are very, very excited to have you on today. Let's see who else. Hello, Tina. Welcome to the show. We're going to give everyone a few minutes just to hop on and join. As we all know, it's a busy industry and a lot of things happen. So we want to make sure that everyone has time to log on. Again, welcome. This will be this webinar will be focusing on the ongoing evolution of childcare management software. And again, we're lucky to have Scott Wayman on from Kangarootime. So he will be speaking about that, as well as I mentioned Dani Christine, who herself is a childcare owner, uses the childcare management software herself, and she'll talk a little bit about what that does for her business, as well as any questions you might have for her. Please feel free to put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. She is also a consultant and creator, so it will be another great asset as part of our webinar today. So great question to start off is, how many of you so far actually use a childcare management software within your schools, academies, or centers? We'd love to know. Feel free to put that in the chat section. Current Kangarootime, Maggie, thank you. And don't feel bad if you're not using Kangarootime. Obviously, there are some great, and let's see, Tony. Yes, we do use them at our schools here in Western New York. We have 3 ourselves. So as we like to say, we do drink our own Kool-Aid. But yes, we do use the childcare management software at our schools as well. Anybody else? Let's see who else might have joined here. And again, we always like to know where you guys are coming from. It looks like we've got Erica, we've got Kathy and Linda, Morgan, welcome Rhonda, Sharon Jensen, welcome. Okay, we've got Morgan, and she said that she is looking into using a childcare management software. So this should be great for you to get some good information on how things have come along and progressed in that industry. Sam from Payson, Utah, you use Kangarootime as well. We will actually be at the SHIFT conference next week in Utah. Are you planning on being there yourself, Sam? Very good. The owner will be exciting. All right. As I mentioned, my name is Nicole Farkas. I will be your MC for the afternoon, and you can feel free to email me with any questions. I am a member advocate here at Inspire Care 360. What that means is I work with the members and can help them. Here is the link that you can jot down. We will also be able to post a link so that you can fill that out to get your CEU certificate, giving you hours towards any accreditation that you might need. Thank you, Sarah. There is your request that you can click on. And we've got a shout out that Scott and the team at Kangarootime are awesome. So thank you. I'm sure Scott appreciates that, as does his team. So there's the link again for your certificate. So just wanted to do a little agenda. Again, welcome. We're excited to have you here this afternoon. Today's host will be Tony D'Agostino, owner of, as I mentioned, 3 of our Inspire centers here in Western New York, and the founder and CEO of Inspire Care 360. We are going to just quickly talk a little bit about some housekeeping, have some discussion, again, questions and answers if we have time at the end, but throughout, definitely feel, as I look, we've got one now, so wonderful. Any Q&A that you have throughout, please feel free to put them in that area at the bottom of your screen. And today, as I mentioned earlier, Tony D'Agostino will be the host for today. If you have any questions for him, you can email him. There he is popping up. We're excited to have him, and he's got 30 years of experience with talent, people, and learning. And his reason for founding the IC360 program is to seek and solve back office talent so we can be an extension of that for you. And then go through with what we're having challenges with our industry. So Tony, welcome.
Nicole, thank you. It's obviously a little weird to be introduced to the podcast I'm presenting on and told my history and experience and how old I actually am and how I'm getting gray. So that's why I use black and white photos, so you can't see how gray I actually am until you get me live. So thank you so much, Nicole, for wrangling everybody in here early in this afternoon now on Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So thanks, Nicole. We'll talk to you soon. Yep. And I appreciate the work you're doing here greatly. She's just been absolutely amazing as one of our member advocates, and we're going to progress from here. So let me jump into some housekeeping. Let's see here. Bear with me. All right, let me get started. All right, so the ongoing evolution of childcare management software. This is something that came about because there has been a lot of rapid changes going on throughout this industry over the past several years. And in some instances, it does feel like there's some leapfrogging technology going on where it has really been kicking up. When Scott and I have had a chance to talk on a few different fronts, I'm always sort of amazed by the innovation that they have been going through with where they've been and where they're going, as well as some other players in the marketplace, in the industry in general. So we wanted to sort of bring that to you and have that discussion with you sort of live today. So this isn't an overly formal presentation. When we were talking to Scott suggested bringing on Dani. So we will be bringing both of them on in a few moments here. So we want to do a little bit of our housekeeping. This is a little bit how we pay our own bills. For those of you who are not overly familiar with Inspire Care 360, we do a lot of back office things that Nicole had brought to your attention. And one of the key elements that we've brought that's been very popular, especially for the recruitment and retention of staff, has been our Healthy Advantage program. It is a healthcare program specific for this industry. I believe we're the only ones in this industry that really have a specific program that was built for this industry. This is something that is, when you look at the stats, like 49% of employees will look for a new job in the next 12 months due to dissatisfaction or confusion based on benefits and healthcare. Healthcare has become obviously a really important thing. And for that reason, that's why we put together a plan that does a couple things. One is it's sort of like a deconstructed major medical plan. In other words, it's able to be affordable and flexible. And the reason it is because instead of having to pay for the contingency of everything possibly getting covered, it is going to be covering a number of things from like office visits and the like. But then you have the ability to add on things like hospitalization, what have you. And there's different levels of plan and there's different coverage and also some voluntary things. So if you want to learn more, Sarah, who is part of our wonderful marketing team, leads that. She will put a link in to our chat. So you have the ability to learn more about it. Moving forward, oh, and by the way, if you are interested, this was just put in today, no installation fee. There is a $500 fee for setup on this. There's a lot of work that goes on when we do put the program in place, and we will be waiving that till December 10th if you decided to take advantage of it. So if you are interested in reaching out, reach out through chat or possibly reach out through the Q&A section or an email to us. That would be great. And then we have Inspire University. This is one element of our services overall, our platform. Inspire University is something that all of our members are able to take advantage of. And this offers them a personalized handbook for both the staff handbooks as family handbooks, comprehensively done for their state as well as federal, personalized for the requirements they have for families, and again, for their staff. E-orientations, we create customized orientations for your schools. So the owner operators have that opportunity to truly be able to welcome people through an e-course that really introduces them overall. Our e-operations program is different courses, up to 27 of them, all on the different kind of programs that you have, all the way from infants through school age and beyond. And then our mentoring development program really sets the stage for how you can be supported. So it is greatly supported here in what we're trying to put forward. I do have someone actually knocking at my door relentlessly. So I'm going to keep on going here for a bit, and I'm going to pause just for 1 second. So I haven't done this, but you guys can take a look at the slide for 1 second here.
I'll take over, Tony. Go check the door. I've had this happen so many times where you don't have a visitor ever, and then right when you're in the middle of just poetic execution like Tony was, somebody comes and knocks on your door and they just won't quit. See, this is not the UPS person. Nicole.
Yes, hey Scott. I know I'm looking at this thing. This is probably taking a little longer than he expected. But yeah, so
you gotta love these wonderful moments.
Sorry about that, folks. We are back in action, and we had some wonderful people come into the door, and they were relentless for us. So we tried to serve them as well as we could. So are you guys, thank you for taking over, guys, by the way.
Oh, it was a lot of help. Let me tell you, Tony, it was super entertaining. All right, I'll let you finish.
You're done for the day, Tony. We took care of it all.
Very good. I love it. Well, I hope you don't mind, and excuse if you overheard language, because I had some people joining me who are not supposed to be here. So anyhow, I do jump back into it. To learn, we're just going to bypass here and jump back into the overall presentation right now. But Inspire University is a very comprehensive platform for us. And one thing that Sarah has recently published for us is building our total rewards relationship with your childcare team. Okay, this is an ebook that actually we've wrote and published, and it is learning the 6 key components of building long-term relationships with your staff, or turnover to reduce that turnover, to increase retention. It is something that is free, and Sarah will be putting a link into our chat. So without further ado, let me bring you on full tilt here, Scott. Come on board and join the party. Along with that, Scott is the founder and CEO, is passionate entrepreneur. Started Kangarootime in 2015. I think I've known him since probably 2016, 2017. And he moved to Buffalo. And I remember clearly when he won that award, I was at a conference looking across the aisle to some of his staff.
Tony, if you remember, so I was raising capital. There's actually a documentary about this. It's called For the Love of Buffalo. All of you should watch it. It's about the business competition that happens in Buffalo every year. They award $5 million in venture capital investment. We were running out of capital. I was spending all my life savings. I mortgaged my house, and then we were at the contest, and I remember they said they were calling references to see if anybody had heard of Kangarootime. And Tony was at this conference, and I'm in Buffalo in front of judges, and they're talking to Tony, and Tony's like, "Yeah, I know who Kangarootime is. Actually, I'm in a trade show booth, and I'm looking right across. You were in Chicago. I was in Buffalo. I'm looking right across. He's got a huge team here. These guys are killing it." And a part of me thinks I owe you, a big portion of that 500K. So every time I see Tony, I buy him a beer. I buy him a beer, and beer by beer, I'll make it right. I'll make it right.
I've already consumed 500,000 worth of beer with you. So. No, it was great. Even though he didn't have as big of a team as he does now, they did actually call. Now that you remind me, they did call as one of the board members said, "Do you know these guys? And is this a growing space? And is this an interesting space? And what do you think in general?" And I gave him my honest opinion. And I don't know if I helped, but I do know that he won. And we were very proud of him because he came basically to the neighborhood. We were in Rochester. I'm in Florida right now, but he's in sunny Buffalo, New York. And we've been very proud to work together on a number of different things, even beyond what our companies do, to try to help lift up the industry a bit. So thank you for joining us today, Scott. And let me introduce Dani. Dani, if you'd like to come on board, Dani Christine. And Dani is a center owner also. She has 3 schools herself. She's been in this industry just as long, if not longer, than myself. She oftentimes has done consulting, sharing tips, techniques with providers around the world on her digital platform. She does have a website, which is childcaresites.com, as well as a YouTube page. We'll also make sure that those get put into the chat so you don't have to try to write them down and transcribe them. But welcome, Dani. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me.
Great. Well, that's fantastic. I'm so happy to have you here too. You were recommended on Scott and Kangarootime request, and we're really happy to have you on board today.
Yeah, same here. I've worked with Kangarootime a bunch, and we actually use their platform in our centers. It's made our lives so much easier. So I'd love to be a part of this conversation.
Awesome. Well, we're very happy to have you. And to just sort of get us kicked off, Scott, in general, I know that most people here have a general understanding of what childcare management software is, but just for the foundational element, why don't you describe your philosophy on what childcare management sort of what it is, where it came from, sort of where it's going in general terms?
Yeah, so Tony, I look at your products from when we first started, and I see something that's very similar to what Kangarootime has gone through. And evolution is a great word, because I think great companies, they listen to their customers and their products become more prolific because the needs of their customers become more prolific. So in the early days, when I founded Kangarootime in 2015, and I was writing out the business plan, and I was in this early stage incubator with mentors, they challenged me to really define what childcare management was. And at the time, it was little more than just billing and attendance management and management of demographics, and that was it, you know. But around that time, we started to see more of a focus around a more holistic software platform, or a platform that was really beneficial in all areas of the business. So to me, childcare management today represents billing and business management. It represents parent engagement and how you handle relationships with the families that you serve. It includes classroom automation, so how your educators configure their daily reports in the classroom, how they are reminded to check diapers, how they're reminded to administer feedings and bottles and keep track of things inside the classroom at point of care. 4, it represents the modality for learning delivery. So like your staff learning products, a place where you house curriculum, education, where you do your assessments. And then the 5th thing is kind of an overall data science layer, a layer that gives you insights into the business. So can you open up your software and see the families that might owe you money in a snapshot in a minute? Can you open up and see where you're short-staffed tomorrow and you need to start making calls? So it encapsulates those 5 things. I think the modern day era of childcare management is something that provides those 5 things. When I first got into this, Tony, my thesis was childcare operators are suffering by a death by 1,000 clicks, not 1,000. You've heard death by 1,000 cuts. The problem that we saw, and the big, hairy, audacious goal that we had to change things, was that the platforms that customers had been given exposure to were good. They were great. They were kind of like, they were 1.0. They were kind of these instruments that help them run their businesses, help them kind of automate billing, but in the end, they weren't designed very well. So somebody, and we tip our hats to the companies that helped socialize the concept of digitizing the childcare business, because they're amazing. They did amazing things. That's the hardest part. And then we feel like we were 2.0. We were 2.0. And we really started to lean into design and user experience, and not expose people to death by 1,000 clicks.
Yeah, interesting. You know, when you say death by 1,000 clicks, when I got into this industry, it was at the beginning of like 2010 era, around there. And honestly, there was sort of like one big player, you know, mention it's ProCare. People know about who they are. And there was a few other players that are very sort of engineer or software driven, very much like big Excel spreadsheets kind of companies. And I would tell you, right, that you did sort of feel like you had one player, which is good because there is a pioneer opportunity there, right? There's someone who helps define the industry in a sense as to understanding what is really needed. And we invested a lot in my school when we first started in something like that. But we did find that it was similar to like, I don't know, like using Microsoft Excel or like Word or something. We were only using a little tip of the iceberg. We really weren't using the power of the program. So when you started coming on site, along with a few others, we started to see this rapid change where the interface became much more user-friendly, much more engaging to work with during the day. And not saying that the others didn't come along for the ride, but when you got into this and you saw this hill to climb, what was it that sort of inspired you to really say, you know, this is something I really want to take on? Because there's already some big players in the industry.
Yeah, that's a great question, Tony. So first of all, I grew up in a childcare family. So my grandmother was a director of a faith-based childcare business for years and years. She called it her retirement, that she never actually got to retire. And then I myself had a young child in childcare and saw how dynamic the business was. So my inspiration came from my experience in corporate America, kind of like yours, seeing the tooling that we had, and then looking at this very important domain. Childcare and early education is such a massive part of our GDP. I think one of the things that COVID taught us was that the idea of working from home with a 2-year-old on your lap is super romantic, but it is a nonsense. It is ridiculous. And I think COVID validated that childcare is one of the most essential cogs in the world economy. And that these businesses, they are super dynamic. So when we started to approach it, I had been a big part of another startup. Our ethos was about design and user experience. And I saw how quickly that changed the conversation in my background, in my past life, and how scrutinizing and obsessing over every pixel and designing every piece of the user experience just removes so much operational overhead. It removes so much of the cognitive dissonance when you enter into a software that's intuitive and it's beautifully designed, and you open it up and it just looks great and beautiful. You don't realize how enchanting it is, how you're drawn to it. I mean, for those of you that have not been hooked on TikTok yet, just don't do it. Don't even try it. It's such an enchanting experience.
A little bit enchanting.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so addictive. In fact, I've got to go. I've got to get on TikTok right now.
At this point for us, a little. So Danny, I've seen you smile a little bit through some of our conversation, just because I think, not because of, you know, Scott's passion, which is awesome, but a little bit because I think you relate to the challenges that he was seeing too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. When you're talking about user experience and dealing with classroom teachers that have dozens of children to provide care for at the same time that they're trying to use these softwares and these different tools, it can be really frustrating or just go to the wayside if it's too confusing or too complex. So it is absolutely essential to have something that is user-friendly and easy to understand. And that's exactly how we have been so successful in implementing the use of these softwares over the years. And it does help, like it, aside from just the functions of billing and lesson planning, just general safety of the kids in care, understanding where the children are within the building, like with the rooming feature that I know Kangarootime has, and many softwares might have, like where children are placed in the classroom setups. I myself, this morning, I'm an owner of 3 programs, and I'm not the director of any of them, so I'm off site. This morning, one of the softwares we used was down, and we weren't able to see Not Kangarootime. We weren't able to see. I wasn't able to see something, and really all that it was that my admin team was logged out of it. And couldn't get back in. So once that happened, like we realized how essential, like we need to be able to access this at all times, or we're not going to be able to move forward with our day. It's crucial. So yeah, I'm smiling and nodding along because everything that Scott is saying is absolutely correct.
Well, that's awesome. So you go with the TikTok statement. Don't watch TikTok anymore. Go to your childcare.
Actually, yes, I agree. Since I joined TikTok, my productivity has gone down.
But it is interesting, you know, when we think about why something like an app like TikTok is very interesting, is because how it's chunked content to very small pieces. You know, Scott, when you look at the attention span that like what social media has done to our attention span overall, it's hard for people to sit through an entire movie without picking up their phone or the like. How has that influenced you in the way that you've sort of engineered and designed your platform as to what you think the demands are out there for this sort of short burst of information?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things there. I think there's obviously the usage of data and decision support within algorithms that make these things really sing and really relevant when it comes to engagement. So is it evil in TikTok? Absolutely, it is. You can waste a couple hours. And the algorithm has me all wrong. It has, like, for whatever reason, it's like all weightlifting stuff and farting. That's it. Like it, TikTok, but still I'm obsessed with it. Whatever.
Flowers and puppies. So I don't know what to tell you.
You gotta be careful what you like.
I know, yes.
I like things because I'm like, I don't want to end up on this side of TikTok.
So that's one thing. It is interesting how we can stratify some of the feedback and what we are learning about behaviors in our parent app. You know, we know parents hit our parent app 7.6 times per day. And that sort of engagement, that is incredible. 9 out of 10 apps on a parent's phone, we have more relevance. Your center can express their quality at mass, at scale. So it's interesting to understand that. Another piece of it that I think is really relevant and thoughtful is design. You know, great systems and great experiences. And Tony, I'm talking about your centers. Dani, I'm talking about your centers. Great experiences are designed. The moment that somebody tours, that door cracks open, you're designing every piece of that experience, from the smell to the smile that they see at the door, to the accoutrements that are on the walls. It's all about design. We feel the same about the software. You know, when a parent enters it, again, enchantment, delight, they should be really feeling the quality that you're working so hard to express in your classrooms. And that can't be done without proper design.
Can you possibly get the sensory smell of opening up the diaper section of our center when you have that for Kangarootime, so they can get this on their device at home?
Smell-o-vision. It's called Smell-o-vision, my friend. They've been talking about it for years. But yeah, hey man, when I walk into a center and I smell that poopy smell, I know things have gone sideways. I know.
So no, we do our very best at our schools too. But no, when you bring up smell, I do think it is a sensory interactive thing when it comes to childcare management software. You know, it has evolved because at first it was sort of like just counting butts in seats. And it was really about making sure there was continuity of care between the parent coming in and making sure that that child was properly hand off. But it's become so much more than that. When you look at, you know, and I think a lot of people, when they start looking at evaluating, which I think a few people up front mentioned, they're evaluating an idea to switch platforms, whether to you, whether to some others in the industry. There's probably a number of things to consider. In your mind, as of course you're going to be biased, you're founder and CEO of a very well-established, well-doing company. But if someone was to be from as agnostic as you could be, to say, here are really the things you should look at, sort of the core underlying things that are important. What are those things that you think that people should be looking at when they're evaluating childcare management today?
Yeah, so it changes, Tony. I mean, pre-COVID, I would have said to you, go with vendor consolidation. Just eliminate all the systems that keep disparate data, like a management system and parent engagement and then classroom automation. If you have 5 systems, they're so hard to roll out and they're so hard to curate. Pre-pandemic, I would have said vendor consolidation. Today, because of the labor crisis that we're all right in the middle of, I would say use tooling that gives you real forecasting data, like real-time data that allows you to unlock decision support. So in Dani's case, she has 3 centers. It's very hard for her to be the stakeholder that manages staff at every single center. She needs tools that help her unlock what utilization looks like tomorrow, what staffing looks like, who may have called in sick. Also understanding who you have in reserve, who your floaters are. Also understanding some trends. We've just launched, our data science team has just launched all this reporting around what the next couple weeks look like, what your traditional attendance looks like, what your staffing looks like by classroom. So to me right now, operationally, I think that we're in such a tumultuous, challenging time. The prioritization should be around the tooling that helps you smooth out operations and really throw your arms around your team and give your staff the best experience, so that you can really kind of build a culture of like, we protect our team. We have the resources for our team. To me, that's the most important thing today.
So let me pass that on to Dani. Dani, you're on the user side, right? What, for yourself, what is important to you about a childcare management software? Why is it, sort of, I don't know, becomes a little bit the center of our ecosystem?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Like I was mentioning before, I think that it's super important for it to be user friendly and easy for all of our staff to use at all levels. Our administrators use our softwares for the onboarding experience of staff and families. Our families use it, of course, to have parent communication between the center and and themselves. And then our teachers use it to keep their day organized with lesson plans and documenting children's experiences and activities throughout the days. So it's really important that it's extremely user-friendly for everybody that has those different technological levels, So that's really what's most important to me. And that we have, in terms of function, like what's the most important function that I might argue is having that parent connection, like being able to pass along communication about the child's day and activities and incidents and diapering and food that they ate, because as we all know with childcare, our teachers are taking care of multiple children throughout the day, sometimes 10 up to 20. If you're in southern states, like 30 kids at a time, I can't imagine. My programs are in New York, but it could be so hard to keep track of what every single child is doing throughout the day. If you're not using a software, I really can't imagine. Before I started my centers, I was a home daycare provider. And at that time, I wasn't using any software. I did that for a few years, and I provided care for up to 16 children with just myself and one other assistant. And even that was hard, with just up to 16 children in total, with myself and someone else. So using software for that parent communication piece, because most of them will come pick up their kids at the end of the day and ask a ton of questions that realistically it might not be so easy to answer off the top of your head. But if you have that software to reference and pull up their daily report, you can say they did this, they had this accident, they went to the bathroom this many times, or even better, it's just sent to them automatically. So I think that's the most useful piece for us.
Awesome. That has me starting to think a little bit that goes on in our schools. We all have to admit, those owners out there too, we've had a bunch of turnover, whether we want it or not. The industry is. That's been one of the focuses of IC360 is reduce turnover. And I know that part of what Scott's trying to do is focus on reducing turnover too, with that engagement of staff themselves. When you look at the fact that you have to bring new people in, one of the challenges with software is getting people on board quicker, Dani, and trying to get them up to speed as quick as possible. What do you do when it comes to the childcare management software to get them engaged with it? What works for you?
Well, we really make it a requirement. We discuss it in terms of staff coming on board and needing to use it. We discuss it during their onboarding meeting with their center director will introduce them to the software. And they'll also shadow the teachers that they'll be working with in the classroom, because most of our classes have multiple teachers in the same room. So they'll shadow their experience and see how to do what. We also have team leaders across all of our centers when it comes to infants from this location and this location and this location. There's one master teacher, I guess you could consider it, that oversees the curriculum implementation within our software and making sure that those daily reports are being completed, that can kind of provide guidance and we'll immediately notice if anybody is struggling. So we just try to create as much support as possible amongst the staff that we do have and the leadership that we have, I should say.
And it seems to make a lot of sense because we do something very similar. It is something that it is mandated for all of our staff to not only participate in, but to get ingrained in right out of the gate. Scott, when you come to the idea of engagement, I really have sort of a dual question for you, so I don't mean this to be too long. One of them sort of addresses the issue of trying to get staff up and running, but I think even a bigger question that people probably have prior to that is if you're going to convert from one platform to another, okay, I think this is what gets a lot of owners scared. They're like, okay, we've invested over years all into this one platform. We've got things all set up one way, and now we have this massive change to a different platform. Data's got to be moved, but then also there's a people change side of it too. And then to sort of answer a little bit more towards what Dani was saying is sort of the ongoing getting people in and up to speed and just ongoing when they come in new. What are your thoughts when it comes about that sort of fear, especially for people who are looking to acquire, about that transfer of data, transfer of, soft skills?
Yeah. So Tony, you're talking about the quintessential change management conundrum, right? So it's all change management. For us, that's been a huge challenge for the last 8 years. And we have found really the only solution is to I harp on it all the time, but is to go back to design. And then really kind of like your adult learning theory, so we've taken 8 years to rinse and repeat and iterate on top of how we expose our platform to 55 new teachers at a childcare center. or at a early learning school. Like how can we do that and make that experience seamless? And I think we have the right approach. It's called the Judy approach. If we can go to Judy, the 70-year-old teacher that just wants to be there and hold babies, and make it a very simple, non-intimidating experience for her, then we've succeeded. And the Judy test is one of those that is just like, it's an indicator. It's an indicator of how well we've done our job. It's also an indicator of how much organizational effort you've extracted out of a change. On the other side of it, the other part of the question you asked was data migration, pulling data into the new system. We've invested in a migration team that does all of that, so they pull everything over, and then obviously adult learning pillars within our implementation team. So they have a thesis around training certain stakeholders and then assuring that there's a number of lesson plans so that they have access to it. Again, it's very similar to the learning theory that's used in your classrooms. But I think taking it down to the kernel of really understanding how people learn, the significance and the importance of change management and communication. And then when it comes down to it, good old-fashioned support, in a back rub for Tony, just something that makes the experience something that makes the experience non-invasive, that doesn't turn the center on its head.
Right. And I've heard it basically from both of you, and I would totally agree. Having a solution that's intuitive, that naturally you don't have to go like, okay, this looks completely foreign to me. I don't know where to hunt and peck and poke and what have you. But something that sort of leads you through it very systematically, I think is absolutely critical. I think we've seen that, like you pull up new apps all the time on your phone to use new apps. And, all the time, people don't even go through training of any type. They're expected just to intuitively learn on the fly. And I think if you have your hand on that pulse and you keep on refining to that, you're going to probably have a lot of success. So when you look at the kind of innovations that you're trying to put forward, Scott, where do you come about that, other than the brainchild of being out with Tony and having $500,000 worth of beer? Where do you come with those innovations? Where are they coming from?
Yeah, so it's all customer feedback. I think one of the blessings you get when you start to build your customer base is this really, really valuable access to tribal knowledge and this beautiful access to this crazy active feedback loop. So in just our classroom platform, every 3 days, we record about 1 million events. Within those events, we've started to really record user behavior. We have software that analyzes adoption behavior. So it understands who's using what features are really getting used, where people get stuck. And then obviously really leaning into our support efforts and making our support team an integral part of our product development. So it's this really active cycle of customer development, understanding their needs, being there for them, getting user feedback. I saw Maggie's on this call. We have put Maggie on a call and said, here's a new screen, Maggie, go. And we don't give her any instruction. We just watch her. We have our user interface scientists just kind of watch and see what Maggie does. And Maggie's in the background texting me like, what am I supposed to be doing? And I'm like, I can't tell you. We just want to see your user behavior. So it's all science, Tony. And it's science, and then it's ethos and really leading with empathy and trying to want to understand how we can make that experience at point of care better.
I think the science is fantastic that you do sort of follow it. It is also, it's following, like you said, though, it's taking the feedback, which is sometimes difficult. You and I sit in a very similar boat in the sense that we're running platforms and ideas of solutions that are technology based. They have a back office of technology support. And sometimes we can't always bend the way that our customer or the people who are out there want us to. And it does take a little bit of time to turn the ship. But the thing that I've noticed is those who are nimble, those who can pivot, those are the kind of ones who can survive. Is there a time where you've had with Kangarootime where you're going down a path and you decided to pivot and go, instead of this direction, you decided to go in a different direction?
Yeah, it happens a lot, Tony. So, it's an old Henry Ford quote who said, obviously you want to provide the greatest experience for customers. But what Henry Ford said was, if we would have asked the customer what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And we were trying to build something more revolutionary than that. So I do think there's a massive balance between just kind of rebuilding a legacy platform like ProCare and giving them a nicer looking legacy platform, and working with your customers and working with the end user and working with industry and advocating and doing things in a way that are a little different, and asking the questions of, okay, you've asked me for these reports, but why do you want those reports? Because they seem a little idiosyncratic. What we think you might need is a dashboard that shows you this when you log in, or a report that you really want this information from, but because of the platform you used in a past life or that you've used for the last 10 years, gave it to you in this idiosyncratic way, maybe you're not thinking about it the right way. So can we partner together, and maybe we can guide you and you guide us to get to the perfect set of deliverables, the perfect product.
Yeah, it's strong to say that influence is great, ideas are great, but like you said, the Henry Ford quote is pretty much spot on. Just because they're asking for this doesn't mean that's where the innovation should really go. Because you have more of a 360-degree point of view, as them having more of a 180-degree view that they're seeing what's in front of them. Dani, when you look at your schools, you look at the communication with your parents and families and the communications with your staff. What do you sort of hope for in the future? Whether it be software, whether it be your ability to do, how do you look at sort of a future where you would like to go with your level of communication with those audiences?
That's a great question. And to be honest, something I haven't really sat down and thought about before, but in quickly thinking about it right now, I think that it making sure that we have everybody that is either on our team or a part of our family because their children are enrolled with us. We want everyone to feel comfortable when it comes to communication. We want them to be comfortable enough to say whatever it is that they need to say to make their lives easier and our lives. I feel like sometimes people might not, both when it comes to families with their kids in our care and our staff, they might be worried about how someone is going to respond to something when they bring up their concerns, and they might just not say what their concerns are, or if they're confused. In speaking of software specifically, if they're confused about something and maybe need help, they might not vocalize it if they're either uncomfortable or might not know whoever their administrator or their coworker that well. They might try to figure it out themselves or get stuck because they're not speaking up. So in terms of communication in general, we want everyone to speak up respectfully and get the help that they need if they do need help, or voice their concerns if they do have any, so that we can all find solutions to any problems that might exist and work effectively and efficiently for the kids that we provide care for.
Well, that's awesome. That's great. And didn't mean to put you too much on the spot, but you nailed that one. So that's awesome. So Scott, sort of back to you, when you really, you look at levels of integration, one of the areas too that you and I have talked about this in the past, in our schools, for Inspired Care 360, we have content delivery platforms. We are oftentimes looking at not only learning, but experiences all being delivered at the fingertips to both staff and the families. You do something where you're integrating with families. Okay, there are CRM entities out there that are integrating with staff and family. You're both staff and family, obviously, but they're doing with staff and families. Where do you, and you and I have brainstormed about this a little bit in the past, where do you sort of see this juncture where we could possibly simplify the world for the childcare industry a bit, where they do not have to manage data in multiple portals? They have an opportunity to centralize their data management and have an opportunity to take advantage of it and not have to over manage all these different solutions out there. And you're on mute.
You know what? I was breathing really. No, I'm just kidding. There was a siren that went by.
Nobody knocked on your door.
So yeah, they're not at my door yet, but all bets are off. So Tony, yeah, we have talked about it before, and we think that this is where the evolution is really happening, and it's in the world of interoperability. We think that the next generation platform that really breaks through does a couple of things. The first one is, and we've started doing them. Right now, we integrate with multiple ERP systems, from QuickBooks to Sage to whatever's and NetSuite, whatever's out there. We will send across information seamlessly and assure that we're getting information back. We've worked before with the CRM providers, and we've also found that enrollment is so core to the information that's in the management system. We started building our own. So we have our own enrollment platform and CRM platform, but we do believe there's a place for advanced interoperability with those platforms. When it comes to other integrations, we're starting to see, especially in the enterprise space, where we're growing super fast. If there's a big childcare organization, they're likely coming on to Kangarootime, and we love that. But they're starting to challenge us and push us in the direction of interfacing with their data warehouse or integrating with their business intelligence tools so that they can pull data from KT and have it exposed in Tableau or Power BI or any of those platforms. So we really feel like today we're in this interesting transitional space of people being okay with having data that doesn't have any real liquidity, but tomorrow and over the next 5 years, data liquidity and having interoperability will be absolutely necessary. So, we talk about it, especially with the big childcare providers, because they've been challenged and pushed to really have data liquidity. The smaller, 1 center, 2 center, 3 center, 5 center owners, they haven't gotten there yet, but we think they get there here in the next couple of years. We think it's so important for them to have that mobility.
Awesome. And I do agree with you. It's something that we work on every single day, is sort of opening up the doors to additional opportunities where it's an interesting marketplace in the childcare space, in the ECE space. There are those who tend to believe if they close the doors to others, it's a secret to success. And I believe, personally, that's a value of the past, in my opinion. We're believers in high tides raise all ships. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have some secret sauce, that you need to have some value proposition that really sings your song for your organization. But being open to what's out there and to what's coming about, I think really helps all of us as to hinder us. The ones that I've seen push everybody away, sort of push themselves into a corner. And I think they struggle to get out of it. So I do like the idea of what you're saying, Scott, in the sense of having that ability that you just absolutely must have, that interoperability in the future is going to be critical. And I really think that even though some of the larger schools out there have this demand, because they do have the ability to push, they got, sometimes hundreds of schools, sometimes thousands, honestly. But the one location that you may have today as an owner out there, maybe 2, maybe 3 locations, you guys bring some of the most creative ideas to us that I think really have spurred our ideas and our thoughts along to the next level. It helped us get enchanted with it, to use one of your phrases.
Delighted, if you will.
Yeah. So we are at our time. We're at 3:00. And I don't know if there's anything else, Scott, that you would like to talk about, or Dani, you would like to address on here. But I'd like to give you a little bit of chance here beyond my questions to see if it makes any sense for you to, engage any further, or for people to obviously be able to reach out to you if they have more questions of you.
Hey, Tony, no, I think we peppered around it the entire conversation, but I think at its core, the advancement of early education and childcare as an advocate, it's about solidifying relationships. And Dani said it best, for her, the software, the prioritization is around the relationships she has with the family she serves. And then we talked about the other big relationship, the people that you provide for, your employees, your team. I think whatever you decide to do, the relationships should be at the forefront of all those decisions.
Absolutely. And Dani, I don't know if you have any last words for the audience.
No, I agree with exactly what Scott said. Absolutely. Relationships are important. Being able to have open lines of communication, both in person and digitally through the use of software, is absolutely helpful. And yeah, that's basically sums it up for me too.
Well, also, I really appreciate both of you. You talked about tooling, analytics, the value of taking advantage of that for decision making, really being able to influence your culture. And for childcare management software to have really a core element around there, I think is absolutely fantastic. Being able to document what is going on within your environment and sort of having that simplified, intuitive user interface, the way to easily engage and to get people to grow and to move beyond. So I want to thank both of my guests for joining us today. I'd like to thank Dani for joining us, as well as Scott. And thank you for joining for our pop-up executive webinar series on the evolution of childcare management software. For those of you out there, you can take a quick look at what Inspire Care 360 does. We engage, we grow, we help you optimize, from onboarding to content delivery, from healthcare to HR, to then getting into the reputation development and management of your brand, as well as making sure you take advantage and be as profitable as possible through our purchase savings and financial expertise and executive coaching. But we're very happy to have both Scott and Dani here today, and want to thank you all. Again, you have a certificate of completion. If that's something that you would like, please reach out to us. I know that the ladies have been putting it in our Q&A and in our chat. So from Tony D'Agostino with Inspire Care 360 for our executive pop-up webinar series, thank you very much. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a great week. First week back from Turkey. Happy holidays, everybody. And take care.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.